Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Let's do a vast news update because there's much to share and there's a lot of good news. So let's get started. Our friend in truth, Black Pigeon Speaks' latest video titled Merkel Accelerates the Kalergi Plan in Europe begins with these words. At the entrance to the Visitors Center of the European Parliament, there is a plaque with these words. National sovereignty is the root cause of the most crying evils of our times. The only remedy for this evil is the federal union of the peoples. One wonders which Rothschild Satanist New World Order puppet wrote those words of pure lunacy, because they stand in stark contrast to the exact opposite words of President Trump.
We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism. The nation state remains the true foundation for happiness and harmony.
Before we continue, I want to let you know this video is brought to you in part by our friends at Noble Bitcoin. Now, gold, silver, and Bitcoin are back in the news because lately global markets have been absolutely pummeled. So if you're thinking about getting into Bitcoin or other cryptos and you want to use an IRA or even an old 401k, you can actually do that, and Noble Bitcoin is very knowledgeable in those areas. And with the lowest fees in the industry, getting started with cryptos in your retirement accounts becomes all the more feasible. If you want to get some skin in the game with exposure to cryptos, contact Noble Bitcoin. The phone number is in the more info section just below this video. As the Soros-backed and paid-for mob Caravan attempts to make its way through Mexico and all the way to the U.S. border just in time for the November elections, it is the U.S. president who has explicitly stated they will not be allowed entry illegally into our country, even if this requires placing U.S. military on the border to prevent Soros' plan for an invasion.
We're defending our borders because if you don't have borders, you don't have a country.
Homeland Security has warned Central America the United States will use every available measure to prevent illegal entry. And Representative Matt Gaetz tweeted out video of the footage in Honduras of the migrants being given cash. Cash to women and to children to join the caravan and storm the U.S. border by election time. And Matt Gaetz asks, Soros, U.S.-backed NGOs, time to investigate the source. And friends, I would add, when the source is discovered, that person or group of people needs to be arrested and tried for their sedition against the United States. It's worth noting that if Soros' ally,
who was one of Hillary Clinton's top donors,
and Rothschild puppet Hillary Clinton were in the White House, the contrived caravan would be touted as a humanitarian crisis, and any American who questions it, or the rights of the caravanners to enter the U.S. for a better life, would be deemed heartless bigots and xenophobes. That's people who are unduly fearful of what is foreign, or especially of people of foreign origin, to be clear. A term now used by the left as an ad hominem against any right-thinking American.
We have no country if we have no border. Hillary wants to give amnesty. She wants to have open borders.
And yet, it is the evil of national sovereignty that allows us the protection of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, that documents that prevent the horrors of a world government controlled by a satanic international banking elite from gutting our nation, and in fact unleashing genocide on the last bastion of freedom in the world. A fully armed, red-blooded populace whose rights are unalienable and God-given. The American people, the very people the left seek to deceive in order to gain the power they crave. The left, so morally and fundamentally bankrupt that they must misrepresent their true positions, or worse, outright lie in order to have even a chance of being elected. Their positions on borders, on immigration, on business, on gun rights.
Oh, I've voted
high capacity mags.
I've voted for most of those things before.
So for a ban?
Oh, yeah.
Their positions so untenable, so un-American, that they must be masked, hidden, and cloaked. They are the people who agree with the words emblazoned on the plaque at the Visitor Center of the American Union, that sovereignty is the root of evil. These people hate America. They hate that God has given you your rights, but that won't stop them from trying to take them. For they are the enemies of a free people, and lovers of the tyranny of the rule of man and of a one-world government. They will be stopped. And as I tweeted on April 11th of this year to the eternally negative folks, if the French can arrest their former president, Sarkozy, for taking millions in bribes from Gaddafi, we the American people can certainly arrest Hillary, for killing Gaddafi.
We came, we saw, he died.
And taking hundreds of millions in bribes from governments around the world, and for her involvement with former U.S. President Barry Soetoro in sedition and treason for their roles in spying on then U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump, and the deep state collusion to then topple the sitting president. And for those who continue to malign the president as nothing more than a Zionist puppet just playing his role, has he not been under constant assault by the very globalist players who hate America from day one? Are the enemies of the people not George Soros, Hillary Clinton, the Federal Reserve, James Clapper, James Comey, Dianne Feinstein, Adam Schiff, and the Podestas, to name just a few? Are these not also the same enemies of the sitting president? Has he not fought valiantly to expose their collusion and their crimes? If you count him as the same, you paint with a very sloppy brush. And at the very, very least, you must concede the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Great Awakening continues, and bad people are being punished. Just a few headlines from SGT Report over the past 72 hours. The FBI raids the offices of San Juan, Puerto Rico Mayor Carmen Cruz as part of a widespread investigation into fraud. And in Pennsylvania, the Department of Justice opens probe into Roman Catholic priests' sexual abuse of more than 1,000 children. And this one, the arrest of Deep State Treasury Department employee Natalie Mayflower Sowers Edwards reveals how BuzzFeed acts as part of a treasonous criminal enterprise pretending to be engaged in journalism, when in fact, in the words of Mike Adams, it is nothing more than a radical, left-wing, anti-American propaganda hub. And it turns out that Natalie May Edwards, the senior advisor in the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, was leaking confidential financial documents relating to former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort. Anti-Trump leakers who falsely believed themselves to be above the law are now in the process of a very rude awakening. And this, in a divine blast of karma, Hillary's short bus medical truckster slammed into a concrete pillar in a parking garage with the dethroned crime boss inside. All the while, more and more documents exposing her crimes are being released. As they say, karma's a bitch. Remember, these are the people who crave the power to destroy the sovereign United States if they can retake Congress, with their own documents and statements revealing their priorities. Protect illegals, target the Second Amendment, investigate Brett Kavanaugh, who the FBI has cleared 7 times, and impeach President Trump. Is it any surprise that these are the very same people who were in control of the White House and the State Department when Tom DeLay exposed their plan to legalize 12 perversions, including bestiality and pedophilia?
Congress, I just want to get this straight. So you are aware of a Justice Department memo that says there will be an effort to legitimize or legalize bestiality, pedophilia, and, as you put it, perversions?
That's correct. They're coming down with 12 new perversions. LGBT just is only the beginning. They're going to start expanding it to the other perversions.
It really is incredible that some people out there still believe there is no discernible difference between President Trump and the witch called Clinton, when in fact, according to our friend Dave Janda, the president has 4 triggers that are in fact imploding the deep state. I'll leave the link to that important video in the more information section below this report. And I want to thank you all for tuning in for real news 24/7. Visit us at SGTreport.com. God bless.
You're going to see arrests, and then you're going to see indictments, and then you're going to see convictions. They are scared to death.